Is the banking crisis over?
Well, so you're always careful with your words, and you started with situation, you ended with crisis. I'd put it more in turmoil. So I guess the quick answer to your question is no, this turmoil isn't over. We see it as we're talking today. FRB is under great strain. It is the case that almost 1 in 10 U.S. regional banks would fall below their minimum capital levels if all of their assets were marked to market. So I think it's increasingly well understood that one of the challenges, the number of the regional banks, the extreme being Silicon Valley Bank, one of the challenges they have is they have a lot of actually quite high quality assets, but very low yielding assets. And they have, in some cases, massive franchise problems because of that, because they're just, unless we go back to a low for long world, which I think is extremely unlikely, unless we go back to that world, they're just going to have very large earnings headwinds going forward. So there are a large number of regional institutions in the U.S. that have varying degrees of this problem. And the longer higher rates go on and the more deposits move to perceived safer places, we're going to see more, at a minimum, I'll put it politely, we're going to see more consolidation in that sector. But, and here's the big but, this is a very different situation than what we went through 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago. I mean, the system as a whole has more than 6 times the loss absorbency it had then. It has much higher liquidity across the system. Central banks are providing, much faster support as needed for those who are impaired. And there are many fewer interconnections between the institutions. I mean, in 2008, everybody was connected to everybody else and nobody knew who was going to fall down next, but everybody was convinced that if somebody failed, it would bring others down. And those were reasonable assumptions, certainly during the panic. That's just not the case now. We're seeing individual problems that the contagion in the system is because of similar business models as opposed to interconnections that cascade through the system. So the turmoil, I would say it's turmoil, not crisis. No, it's not over because we're in a higher rate environment. We're going to have a tougher credit environment coming as the economy slows, but it's in an absolutely different order of magnitude of what we experienced in the past.